How lovely is your dwelling place, O Lord of hosts. My soul longs, indeed it faints for the courts of the Lord. My heart and my flesh sing for joy to the living God. In season 1 of the Dwelling Place podcast, this longing took me on a 6-month journey around the UK to dwell with a variety of intentional Christian communities, sharing interviews with community members, leaders and founders along the way. In this second season of the Dwelling Place podcast, I invite you to join me in the US as I occasionally visit intentional Christian communities and share community-related interviews in the midst of my seminary education. In sharing these conversations, exploring the blessings, challenges, and wisdom of intentional Christian communal living, I hope to share glimpses of the transforming presence of the living God and inspire how it is we might be called to contribute to making God's kingdom manifest on earth, enabling people, God's beloved, to experience God's loving dwelling place.
My name is Sue Morrison, and I'm the hospitality main coordinator here at Koinonia. First, they asked me if I would be on the hospitality team, and then some of the people ended up going away and leaving, and so I'm sort of the hospitality team myself. So, but it's okay. And how I came to be at Koinonia, I had been volunteering down on the border in El Paso, Texas, at an immigrant shelter for the immigrants. And we had a wonderful community of volunteers for that, especially that first year that I volunteered down there. The volunteers would all meet for like morning reflection every morning. And I just loved how we worked together, lived together, prayed together, had like all for a common goal is to give hospitality to these people who were coming through our house. So I was looking around for another community and had read some magazine article about Koinonia Farm, and I thought, oh, that might be a good fit for me, and put it on the back burner to not forget in my head. And so it was about 3 years later that I applied and became an intern here at Koinonia Farm in 2020.
Yeah, so. Wow. And you mentioned in a previous conversation over lunch how that mapped onto your retirement and wanting somewhere to be in the midst of that.
Yeah, it was during COVID, and I had been living in Seattle at my daughter's home. I don't own my own home, and so I was like being the granny nanny at my daughter's. And of course, with COVID, we were all getting a little cabin fever-ish there in the city. And I was just like looking around for what can I do next. And I loved the idea that Koinonia is on a farm. It's out in the country. It's not in the city. There's a lot of intentional communities in cities, like Catholic worker houses and those kind of things. They do great things, but I really was attracted to just coming out to be on a farm. And so, yeah, when I first came, I had to quarantine for 2 weeks because it was COVID, but I didn't have to stay in my apartment the whole time. It was a grape picking time, and so they said, if you want to go out to the vineyard and pick grapes, you can do that, just stay socially distanced from the other people, no problem. And so I did that, and it was kind of a fun way to get to know people kind of from across the bushes and the vines. And so, everything just fell into place.
Yeah, wow. And Koinonia has a fascinating history, a relatively long history in terms of Christian communities. Would you mind, this is a big question, so we can break it apart, but summarising the history of Koinonia?
So Koinonia was started in 1942, and so it's this year it'll be 82 years old. And it was started by two couples, and who were the main founder was he and his wife were one of the couples, and he had a background both in agriculture and he was a pastor and a Greek scholar. He had a PhD in Greek New Testament, and he and this other couple wanted to start a community and call it Koinonia for the Greek word of community, fellowship, and sharing things in common. And so that was their dream. And so they bought this land, broken down old buildings here in southwest Georgia, and with the idea that this place was going to be a demonstration plot for the kingdom of God. So eventually of the two couples that started it, the other couple went off to do missionary work in Burma. But then other families and people came here to Koinonia to join in with this vision and this community, and they were living in harmony, and they were doing things during the farming season, because it's a farm. They would, during certain seasons, they would hire extra local people to come and help on the farm, and they would hire black folks and white folks and pay them the same rate. And at lunchtime, they would sit down at lunch together, like we still do have a communal lunch, and all sitting together and eating together. And which, of course, back in those days, that was were the Jim Crow days, and that was that was not acceptable in the South, the way things were back then. And so eventually, in the 1950s, the Ku Klux Klan and local people started a campaign of violence actually against the farm, and there would be drive-by shootings, and there would be maybe kids out in the yard playing volleyball, and bullets would be going over their heads. They would come at night and cut down trees, or come at night and kill pigs, or break the fences, or all kinds. There was the farm had some roadside stands out on the highway, and those got bombed twice. There was just a lot of that kind of violence, a lot of shootings, though it was I think Koinonia must have been protected by God or blessed, because no one here ever got killed or even injured by those bullets. Some really close calls, but I think we're very fortunate that nothing terrible like someone getting killed happened. The worst thing was that one of the Koinonians was in town one day delivering some packages and got beat up, but not killed. So there was this violence for 10 years, and also there was an economic boycott of the farm. So all the local businesses would not sell or buy anything from Koinonia. So they had to do business at the town of Albany, which is 35, 40 miles away. The farm almost went under because they couldn't sell or buy, and it was very hard financially. But there were a lot of supporters, especially some people up in the north. Also because Clarence Jordan he gave a lot of lectures and sermons, and went up to colleges and churches and gave speeches and sermons and spread the word about Koinonia. And so there were a lot of supporters up north that would send money to support us. And about that time, since they weren't able to do farming really because of the boycott, they had pecan trees, and so they started processing the nuts and then shipping those. So they started a mail order business, and that's how they were able to keep afloat during that time. And to this day, we still have the mail order business that has morphed into an online business. So,
yeah, and Koinonia also played, I guess, some kind of role in the civil rights movement in terms of it really pioneering, proving that you could live interracially at a time that it really wasn't a thing. And I think in the documentary it mentioned that Dorothy Day came and visited, and maybe Martin Luther King Jr.
Yes, they at different times they have both visited the farm. Dorothy Day came because she really supported what we stood for, the equality of the races and all that. And she came down, I don't remember the year, it could have been 1957, but I'm not sure. And they at that time they had two people at a night to sit out like in a car right by the road to be kind of on watch because there would be drive-bys. And when she and another woman, it wasn't men at that night because the men had been working really hard in the fields, whatever season it was. The men were needed in the fields during the day, so some women were standing watch, and so these two ladies were sitting in a car, and a car came speeding down the road, and it shot. They shot into the car that the two ladies were sitting in. And the bullet, what I've read, the bullet went through the engine and then lost its power, as it went through the engine, and then dropped on the car floor at Dorothy Day's feet. And it scared her amazingly. And some other ladies and people came out from the houses when they heard the shots and came out to see if they were okay. And Dorothy Day was shaking. And the lady who came out said, oh, here's my jacket. You look cold. And she says, that's not cold, baby. That's scared. And so it really scared her. But again, no one was hurt. It just seemed like a really close call. And so that's our experience. Thank you, Dorothy Day, for coming to visit. And then another time, Martin Luther King, when he was, I think, during the Albany movement, he had come up here. And there was also an Americus, like marches going on in Americus. And I think it was under secret so that there would be no, repercussions for Koinonia, but he came in secret. But I found in one book where it was like reminiscence of people who lived here, and a lady said that she was working in the pecan plant, and Clarence Jordan and Martin Luther King came through on like, he was being shown, what we do. And she got to speak to him. And then the very next day she went and marched in Americus and went to the courthouse to get registered to vote. So that was a good story that I found in a book because I had not known that he had come here. So.
Wow. And so you mentioned that Koinonia is a farm, and that at a time people were employed to work on the farm and paid equally despite race.
Yes.
My understanding is that the model of Koinonia has changed a bit over time, but would you mind describing how Koinonia currently operates? My understanding is that there are people who are members, there are interns, there are staff. Would you mind giving us an overview of the different ways of being a part of Koinonia?
Right. So there's a core group of people that are members, and when you become a member, you commit to being here, living here, in community with people, and they don't say for the rest of your life, they say for as far as the eye can see, because things will happen in your life. So as far as the eye can see, I'm actually the newest member, and after being an intern for 2.5 years. But then I guess we are kind of in groups, but all together we're Koinonia. The interns, we have an intern program that you can, and it's people from all walks of life that can come and be an intern. Where you come, you're immersed in the life of the community, and you work together with everyone, pray together, eat together, have fun together, fellowship together. And also, the interns have a study curriculum. So there's assigned readings, and then you get together and have discussions on, those issues. A lot of the things that we study are like sustainable farming, and hospitality is a big one, and welcoming the stranger, and peace and justice issues. Racial equality is huge. Those kinds of things. Plus, there's spiritual things too. As an intern, one of the studies I did was Clarence Jordan wrote what's called the Cotton Patch Gospel, which is he translated the New Testament into the Southern vernacular from back in those days of the 40s and 50s and 60s, and anyways, it is his translation of the Greek. And so for one of my intern studies, I did the Sermon on the Mount, which is, even Gandhi read the Sermon on the Mount every day for like 40 years. So it's like the epitome of like peace and justice for all, I guess.
And interns, 1 year internship, or is it?
Oh, at first you become a seasonal intern, and which is an average of 3 months, though the summer one is a little shorter because a lot of times college students come and it has to fit in between their semesters. Or the fall internship is usually about 4 months because that's our busy season and we need the help for that extra time for the busy season. But so then you start as a seasonal intern, and then you can apply to become a year-long intern after that. So that's what I did. I did a year-long after that and committed to a year. And then I actually went off and did a few other things, but I decided to come back for a second-year internship, so I did. And now I'm a member.
Yeah. And how many members are there currently?
Currently, there's 9. 9, yeah.
And how many interns do you generally have at a time?
It varies, depends on who has applied and whatever. Right now, we have 7.
7. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And to give people a picture, given that they're not here, Koinonia is a farm, as we've mentioned, in southern Georgia, where it gets very hot in summer, and it's beautiful and green. There are pecan orchards everywhere. It's beautiful at this time of year. And there are different houses scattered around.
Like a kind of a main campus with houses, and the housing is for members. If there's a house for the interns, there's guest housing, like for your group that you're here staying. So we have some cottages and upstairs. It's sort of dorm-like with just bedrooms and bathrooms down the hall. So we have that for guest housing. But to get back to the groups of people at the farm is that we have, it's a program called Come Stay a While and Serve, and it's like a work volunteer program. And the people who want to come, they apply for this, but they can choose if they want to come for 1 month, 2 months, or 3 months. And so right now we have 5 of those Come Stay a While and Serve, is shortened as CSAS, 5 CSASers who are here for 2 or 3 months right now. They're great people too, so yeah. It's real similar to the internship, except for they don't have the study curriculum. So their main thing is just to join in the community and help us with the work. And then we do have a small handful of paid staff. Our gardener, she originally got hired because we had a grant to hire her. And then she was so great that we just kept her on as paid staff. And then we also have, for example, our office manager and an accountant. So some of those are paid staff. And then there's like long-term volunteers who have been coming who don't live on the farm, like Carl, who is our cook. He comes 2 days a week to cook for us, and bless his heart, he used to do things out in the pecan orchards, but he then had heart issues, so now he's the cook. So,
Wow.
so that's sort of who we are.
Yeah, and how you live together.
Yeah, and we all live together. We have, I don't know, in general, I gave kind of the history, but in general, let me just say that we are a Christian, intentional community that's also an organic pecan farm. So we have pecan orchards, we have an organic garden that we don't sell from, but we use for our own use to feed us. Plus, if there's any surplus, we donate it to the local food pantry. We have a little flock of sheep. We did have chickens, and we're going to get some more new little chicks this spring. And we have a vineyard and a big blueberry field, as you know. You were working in it this morning. So that's kind of an overview of what we are and who we are.
Yeah. And financially, the income comes from the produce?
Yes, financially, okay, I didn't even realize this until a month ago. From our pecans that we harvest in our orchard, we make products, or we just sell pecans, like you can buy pecan halves or pecan pieces, but we make also pecans into products like chocolate pecan bark or date nut bread or many things. Like there's a party mix, there's granola, there is pecan pies, pecan butter, all kinds of products like that. And so I think our product sales are half or maybe a little more than half of our income. And then we also get income from our hospitality ministry because of the guest housing, and people come and you know, pay to stay. In my mind, it's sort of like a bed and breakfast, except for it's not breakfast, it's lunch, because we have a communal lunch every day, and people, if they pay their lodging costs, then they're invited to have lunch with us. But also people can like register online to come for just lunch, like if people are passing through and they can come here for lunch, or they can come for a tour or lunch and a tour. And so doing those tours is part of my job. So that's part of our income also, is the hospitality, and then donations. Since the beginning, since Clarence Jordan was here, that donations is part of it. We are in the like tax category, sort of, if you think of us like a monastery that has its own cottage industry, that's kind of what we are. We're not, of course, we're not a Catholic monastery. We are ecumenical, but yeah.
For tax purposes.
Yeah, in those kinds of categories, yeah.
And do interns or people who come and stay a while and serve, do they pay to do that? Are they stipended while they're here, or are members stipended? How does that work?
Okay, I'll just go down the categories. The members, it's income sharing, but that has changed over the years, and now it is more like a tithe. So I'm a member, and so I tithe a certain percent of what and I'm retired, so I get, Social Security and a pension. So I'm happy to give it because, it's my room and board, and it's where I live. So, but if you're an intern, you can get a stipend. It's not very much. It's more like spending money, little spending money. You can get a stipend. But if you are a come stay a while and serve volunteer, there is no stipend. But we do provide for everyone, all the categories I already said. You get your room and your food. We have the communal lunch together, and so you're on your own for breakfast and dinner. And Koinonia will provide basic groceries for your other meals too.
So you're fully provided
yes.
for. Yeah. And then I'd like to segue into, we've touched a bit on this in covering other things, but just the routine of the day, or the daily rhythms, or the monthly rhythms.
Right. The
what do
daily
those
rhythm
look like?
Is we start every day, Monday through Friday, with chapel in the morning at 8 in the morning, and usually lasts about a half an hour. Very simple little service with just reflection, some scripture, singing, and a little reflection. And that's a great way to start the day. And then there's like a work session in the morning from 8:30 till noon. And then at lunchtime, we have our communal lunch, and then like a little devotion afterwards. And then there's a schedule for who cleans up after lunch. And then there's an afternoon work session and until 5, and then you're free for the evening, usually. I wanted to say that the work sessions are, now I'm pretty much in the office, but I loved being at Koinonia because until now my job in the office, but you might work in the garden in the morning, and you might work in the bakery in the afternoon, or you might work on landscaping, or picking grapes, or working in pruning out in the vineyard, or picking up sticks in the orchard. I mean, it's like different things. You might have a different thing morning and afternoon, and day to day. It's going to be different things. So I really liked that. It's different from having a regular job out in the world, where you get a job, you go, you do that job, always the same thing, and then that's it. So it's a real mix, and it really makes you know and understand what it takes to keep everything going. Yeah. And then during the fall, every other year, we have a pecan harvest. The trees only produce nuts every other year, and so that will be a real busy time with harvesting the nuts. We have machines that do that, but there's some parts where it's very labor intensive. And then also it's always in the fall, and so also in the fall is our busy season for our mail order online business. So there's a lot of work to be done in the bakery to be making the products that we are selling. And I've worked in the orchard, I've worked in pecan processing, I've worked in the bakery, I've worked in shipping, where we ship them out, all the people's orders. And it's fun to see go the full circle from the orchard to the box that's being shipped off to you in whatever state you're in. Yeah. So that's been really fun.
Yeah, wow. And the day is also punctuated by times for prayer? Is that right?
Yes. We have a prayer bell that rings at 10 in the morning, 3 in the afternoon, and 8 at night. And wherever you are on campus, and when it's that time and you hear the bell ring, like, you just stop. And I tell people, no matter what faith you are or no faith, just it's a time to stop and, to pray, or whatever that means to you, even if it's just a moment of mindfulness, to just to pray and remember thankfulness. Yeah.
Yeah. And you, so weekends are off? People don't work on the weekends? Or?
Usually not, though sometimes if there's a project that needs to be done, people will be assigned to it. And also, I've been trained to work we have a little store called the Welcome Center, and so I take shifts in the weekends. Yeah. But usually Sunday is your day off, totally. And we may or may not work on Saturday, or might work a half a day, or not at all. So it just depends on what's going on. Yeah.
And do members, is there a sense of holiday allowance, given that you're here as far as the eye can see?
Yes, we're able to, you work it out with what your schedule or what your work demands are. But even I just took a 3-week vacation to go visit my family, my grown kids in the Pacific Northwest, and so it's a whole different world up there from Georgia.
Wow.
So, in the snow and But yes, you can take vacations and go to. Yeah. I mean, family is important. In fact, when there was a time in 2022 that my daughter had a medical emergency, and I was like in shock because her kind of life was on the line, and so I went and prayed with the director and the other member, and they said, well, when are you going? Like, it's not like, yeah. So you just go.
It's nice
and I ended up being away for 3 months at that time to take care of my daughter, so that it all worked out.
I'm glad. I'm also wondering who makes the schedule, because must be a feat of work to know what needs to be
There's
done.
A team of
between the transient community.
I know, with this many people and comings and goings, and then that's a set, and then the set of all the stuff that needs to be done, and like to put it all together, and it's amazing how well they do it. There's a team of 3 that do it. Okay. One person kind of sets it up, the next person tweaks it, and the third person checks and tweaks more. So
and I guess like the head of gardening must have an input on
So yes, there's team leaders like the gardener, like the head baker and all that. There's a deadline in the week where they have to submit, next week I need these many people on these days. So
And on Sundays there is also 6 p.m.
Oh, right.
service?
Yes. At 6 p.m. on Sunday evening, we have what we call our gathered worship, and that is changeable, because sometimes, depending on the weather and the season, we might hold it outdoors, or we might hold it at the dining hall over here and have a potluck with it, or we might have it around the bonfire. It can be changeable. But sometimes we have a taizé service, which is lovely.
I wear a taizé cross and lead taizé service because I adore it.
And okay, the thing I wanted to say about Sunday evening is that we have our gathered worship on Sunday evening, so that if people here on campus want to go to another church in town and join another church, anything like that, they can do that, and do that on Sunday mornings, and then still be here for hours. So,
and is it a different person who leads worship, or are there kind of assigned pastors of the community?
They take turns. Some of the members take turns.
Okay.
Yeah.
So and it rotates like that, and because there's also a small time of devotion around lunch, isn't there, as well? And they take turns usually members. For that. Yeah. I was also wondering whether some of the fun things which happen around the daily schedule. I remember you mentioning a pecanathon or something, what are some of the other things that just pop up in the community life?
Yeah, the one year we had a pecan harvest, and we were behind on sorting, because we hand sort the pecans, and we were kind of behind schedule on that. And so we had some interns that had this great idea, let's have a pecan sortathon. And so they had a sign-up sheet, and you could sign up for it, because we were going to sort pecans for 24 hours straight. And we needed to have 2 or 3 people at least in the sorting room at all times during that 24 hours. So we had the sign-up sheet, and I signed up for a few different sessions of work. And during the day, there would always be someone in there working, but the rest of us had we had games and a barbecue. Instead of playing hot potato, we played hot pecan around in a circle, and a lot of fun games that they set up. And we had teams, so that we were getting points for our teams, and that it was really, really fun. And then other times it just pops up for whoever has ideas and energy to the great ideas. Let's do this. And so, we had a guy where there were some families with kids, and so there was a man who organized the kids into an acting troupe, and they put on plays for us. It was great. And then another time, we had a St. Patrick's Day festival and and a coloring contest, and yeah, just different like parties for people's birthdays, or just a lot of fun things. We had a surprise party for Gloria's birthday, and then it was a Hawaiian theme. So when she came in the door unawares, like we ran over and put the hula skirt on her, and and yeah, like a lot of fun things like that. Yeah.
And another question I had was just observing that there are only 9 members, but supporting a community of around 25, and that the remaining, which aren't in the 8 members, is very transient. And so I was wondering what it's like to be part of such a small core fixed community, but sustaining such a high level of transience.
Yeah. There's times when we're very few, and you just do, to keep the place going, you just do what you have to do to keep it going. And then it's so nice when you get a big group, and even visitors who come, like your group, to come and volunteer to do work. It really, really helps. So it can be hard in that, like when we're a small group, you just have to do what's priority. Well, because we're only this many people, and it's a big farm. The farm is 575 acres, so it's a lot to keep up. But mainly we just live here on campus, and then have the garden and the orchard, and a lot of the acreage is in old orchards that we don't harvest anymore, and in forest, so they do their own thing. But
yeah. And emotionally, do you find it hard to see people come and go?
That is so hard. You get to know and just absolutely love people who come here, but maybe they only came for 1 month or 2 months. And it is hard to see them go. It's like a hole in your heart for a while after they go, but then you live on and new people come. And so I've made so many friends here, and amazing people from everywhere that are around the country and other countries that are just awesome people.
Yeah. So. And did you say that the members, you all live in the same house, or are there like 2 or 3 member houses, or do you live in your individual houses as members?
Right now the members live in their own houses. Well, Bren and Jim are married, so they're in a house. And I was an intern, and now I'm a new member, but I'm still in the intern house because they're remodeling a building that I'm going to move into, so I'll be soon moving. But there's 2 bedrooms there, so I'm hoping I'll have a roommate sometime. So yeah, the housing, the members have their own house, and then there is a main house that we use for the Come Stay a While and Serve volunteers, and then there's the intern house, and we have 7 of us right now in that house, and and then there's guest housing, so that's, and then some of the members have been here so long and they don't live on campus, like Norris. He and his wife live in a house, and Gloria also lives, but they live nearby, but there's so much a part of Koinonia. They're members,
and then everyone comes for the 8 a.m. morning service, and that's the beginning of
the beginning of the day. So,
and what have been some of? I mean, we've touched on some of these already, but some of the blessings which stand out to you in reflecting on your time at Koinonia. It might be in the form of a story or just a sentiment in general.
I think just in general, living in community and having these good people as my friends and as support for me, and I think that is like the biggest blessing. Oh, one small blessing really is that I don't like to cook, so I'm not one of the cooks, and there's a wonderful leftover refrigerator, and so I don't have to cook. I can just go over to the leftover refrigerator and get food and microwave it, and I'm set. So, yeah, that's like kind of a little small bonus for me. But it's mostly the people. It's a real blessing for me. I just get life from, say, walking to chapel in the morning and just seeing the sky, the sun coming up, and listening to the birds. And it's a place that's real peaceful. It's a real blessing to me. And I love like taking hikes out to we have a place called Picnic Hill that is where our founder, Clarence Jordan, was buried, and also Millard Fuller, who started Habitat for Humanity. He's buried out there too. And it's a nice hike out there through the forest and through the orchards. Very nice. Yeah. So there's many blessings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is so peaceful. It's wonderful. And what has been harder, either for you as an individual or for the community in general? I know that there have been difficult times in history, so I'll let you navigate yourself. Yeah. But what would you say?
For myself, sometimes it's hard. Well, okay, number one, you're living with a bunch of people, and so everyone has a different personality. They come with different burdens and different baggage that they bring to us, the group. And there's been some times where there's friction between people, and that has been hard for me. There was a couple of interns that didn't get along, and in the end, one of them ended up leaving. It's just that stuff is hard for me. I just want there to be peace in the world, you know. But it's kind of inevitable when you have a group of people.
It's part of community.
And it's part of community life, and you live together as a family, and you think of families, they don't always get along great either. So it's but the best part is that we're a Christian community, so we're one of the things that we study as an intern is humility. And so if you put yourself in a place of humility and just to love one another, what does that look like, and what can it be? And it's, for the most part, great. Just, sometimes there's little bumps. So
yeah. And as we close out, I'm wondering where you find or have found God in your life at Koinonia, and maybe I'd love to hear more about what Koinonia has meant spiritually for you, maybe in terms of maybe there was a spiritual drive to you coming here, maybe not, but if there was some story about that, or how what Koinonia has done for you spiritually, as well as where have you found God?
I think well, first of all, I was attracted to Koinonia. Not only, I think I talked about it being a farm and I wanted that in community, but the spiritual aspect. Because I looked around at lots of different Christian communities, and none of them seemed to fit me, And I remember before I came, I watched a video where someone was interviewing our director, Bren, and as she was talking, I was thinking, these people are my tribe. This is it. And so anyway, spiritually, I came here wanting to, just always, in my whole life, I want to strengthen my faith. I guess I'm a seeker, and looking for a deeper meaning in life, and I'm being fed here in that way. I love going to chapel every day in the morning. Start your day with the gospel. What's better than that? And then just to see where God is working. And you see amazing miracle things happen, and then people come to enrich your life. I think for me, I'm looking for, because Jesus talked about living life to the fullest, and what does that really look like? and what can it be? And personally, I didn't want to be, like I said, I'm retired. I could go out and get an apartment, live by myself. You know, maybe I could just join a church, or I could do some volunteering, but it wouldn't be the same. It would be like living for myself. And for here, I'm living for others. And that, I think, is what Jesus talked about. Totally. That's, yeah.
Yeah. And just feeling part of a body, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah,
Exactly.
with others. And I love Clarence Jordan's language of Koinonia as a demonstration plot for the kingdom of God. And I think that really resonates with how I experience community, and it sounds like it.
Yeah. Same.
Yeah.
Same for me. Yes.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much for taking the time.
You're welcome. You're welcome.